Good morning. Welcome to the last edition of the month of last edition this week, and incidentally the first day of the 12th month of the year 2023, December 1st. My name is MISHAPS, and this is congratulations to everyone out there. We made it to the 12th month, notwithstanding the hardship, the challenges we all have been through. My name is MISHAPS, welcoming you to this first day of December's edition of Inside Nigeria, reaching you on Leadership Television as usual. And of course, I have my guest who has been on our. It's a pleasure to have him today's program, Dayo Omogu. He's a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much.
Well, let me start by saying Happy New Month to you, Winfred, and to everyone out there. You say I've been on Owl. Okay, I'm back now, at least for this edition, at least for this show. I want to say thank you for the opportunity once again.
Yes, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, today's newspapers, of course, still on a developing story on our budget, national budget that was presented 2 days ago at the joint both houses of Senate and the House of Representatives of the National Assembly by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And most of the leading stories is still on that issue of budget. But nevertheless, today, December 1st, is World AIDS Day. It's a day set aside to show more awareness on the pandemic HIV/AIDS, which has ravaged the world for over 42 years now. And of course, some other papers captioned it that it has continued to defy cure and vaccine. But however, we are going to be flagging up with Leadership, Nigeria's most influential newspaper. Leadership story is on both MISHAPS, with our Waterways Authority blamed for 911 deaths. Stakeholders decry avoidable casualties as numerous regulatory lapses persist. Say many passengers have no access to life jackets. This is a leading story on Leadership Friday, Nigeria's only Friday newspaper. And of course, like I said earlier, other papers still have developing stories on our budget. Dayo.
Yeah.
The budget that was presented 2 days ago at the National Assembly, that is 27.5 trillion naira budget, is already suffering a setback, given the fact that OPEC has pegged the benchmark, oil production benchmark, at 1.5 million barrels per day, as against 1.78 million barrels per day budget benchmark.
Well, that's rather unfortunate. I guess I don't know which came first, but it looks like the government didn't see it coming.
Yes, they definitely didn't see it. It's ongoing because one of the African states, Angola, vowed that it was not going to abide by it, that it was going to continue to produce more.
I think that in our current situation, the world will have to, help Nigeria to come out of
and don't forget that we have
too many challenges.
We are already using 8.6 trillion naira to service our debts.
And so we need to make
now
money.
Our revenue is going to
dwindle the way it is. So definitely, I do not know what the stance of the government is going to be, but we can't always comply, even at the point of death. We cannot. You can't agree with your killer now, because you see, if the most basic instinct of anyone, of every person, is survival, and that should also be seen even in the life of nations. If a nation is going to have to die, if everything is going to have to crumble because of certain policies, and if you think that you have an option, I'm sure that it will make sense to pursue such option, because if we already have a 200,000 deficit in terms of a gap, in terms of what we can and what we really desire then that's a problem on its own already. And don't forget that usually we've had for some time
2 million over 2 million deficit.
No, if it's 1.7 and the other one is 1.5, that's 200,000. So the point is that for quite some time we have had issues with violence in the Niger Delta, which has also reduced our ability to meet our quota, our target. And now that we look like we are good to go, we are also going to have to get frustrated by policy. I think that that doesn't sit well with us. Well, the Tinubu administration will have to do something about that quickly, so that we get out of this
logjam.
Yes.
Now talking about budget, because it's still a developing story, of course, making the rounds in some select newspapers today, Friday, December 1, 2023. The Vanguard says, because many stakeholders and experts have already been calling on the federal government to look beyond. The federal government actually has business in doing business. And like Vanguard says today, federal government's MDAs, now undertakers of businesses, MAN, NECA, lament rising inflation, multiplicity of taxes, threats of strikes, protests. Say Nigeria needs investment to create jobs. Lord, organize businesses for resilience. People not interested in budget figures if prices of bread, rice remain high. Rewani. Arts, you can fake news, but can't fake prosperity. Now, talking about business environment, federal government, successive governments have always tooted on ease of doing businesses. But meanwhile, some multinationals like Baker are already leaving the country. So it doesn't tell well for the economy, which presently experts agree is in tatters. So what can be done about this ease of doing business?
See, there's a whole lot that government has to really do. The Tinubu administration really has to roll up its sleeves to tackle this challenge, because, like you said, that government has business, must be involved in business, not necessarily directly, but by providing the enabling environment. And one of the things, for example, you'll see what Rewani said here, that people are not interested in the budget figures if the prices of basic items like bread and all that still are skyrocketing. So it's important to say to the government that it's on their table. It's their responsibility to ensure that infrastructure, enabling environment is in place so that businesses can truly flourish. And when businesses flourish, the impact, the consequence is that the government itself, the national coffers, will be enriched. Also, on the strength of that, I like, for example, to give one or two examples of how the government itself is cutting its own ease of doing business image and revenue and all that. For example, for the past like 2 months, the BPP portal has been down.
That is
Bureau of Public Procurement. Now, definitely, this is not good news for businesses, and it lines up quite well with this headline in the Vanguard this morning. It says that they are now undertakers of businesses. Now, because this is it, the BPP is supposed to issue a certificate that is like a clearance certificate that you have done what you need to do as a business. You have paid. You have done your tax clearance certificate, you have done your NSITF, you have done your PENCOM, you have done your ITF, and you have done all that to say that you're a responsible corporate citizen and you have paid your dues. Now, when you have paid all the dues and it remains only to get certified, then at that point, the system says you can't get a certification.
And there are talks that
that's
2 months now.
About 2 months. For about 2 months, this is being on. And in fact, on my own personal Facebook, I had reason to put it up for the world to look at. The truth is this: for such a very important system, there has to be an alternative plan. If the system is not working, then there has to be a manual system. Now, we have followed it up even to the office, and we found out that they don't have an alternative plan. And come to think of it, what exactly is the reason? One of the persons speaking anonymously in the office did say that it's because the office is owing for services, is owing the consultant for services. So it's not even the portal itself that broke down. It's an act of, if you ask me, irresponsibility on the part of government. And you know, government is supposed to set the bar in terms of maybe credit, in terms of managing finances, in terms of relationship with contractors and all that. But you find out that most of the time it's government that defaults the most.
But this is gotten for a fee. is it not? So at the end of the day, are they not losing money?
For what?
For 2 months,
for,
that's been
for
shut
2 months, that's a whole lot that has been lost. And then apart from that, the fact is that businesses are being, are being like crushed. Because think of it this way. Look at this scenario that a business has gone out to get a loan, maybe get a loan from loan sharks. A lot of small businesses are getting loans from these loan sharks, and then you find out that the interest rates are very high, but they want to do something. And then they get to the point where they need to get paid and they cannot get paid, not because they have not rendered services, not because they have not followed due process, not because they have not done what they ought to do to the government, but because government is checking its own responsibility. That's a very unfortunate situation. Now, look at it. The government has to take a stand whether or not they want to continue with the BPP thing. I mean, we can do without it if it's not working. We can do without it. But if we're going to work with it, then let's work with it and let it be on 24/7.
I was coming to that because many are of the opinion that there's so much bureaucracy where businesses operations are concerned. Is it that there's too many roadblocks to?
In fact, if the same Vanguard newspapers, that's part of what it says with the rider, that there are multiple taxes, all kinds of taxes, asphyxiating conditions that crush businesses. So it's part of what this government must look at. Unfortunately, the Tinubu administration is going on to a large measure, like it doesn't really care about the feelings of the people and the feelings of businesses, and this will not do the government good. I believe, I don't know where that comes from. I believe that the administration means well, but you see, it's one thing to mean well. It's not another thing. Your body language and the communications, the vibes that come from you. It's very important that they tally so that a proper image is formed. But right now, what you find is that, for example, a caring government will not allow businesses suffer this BPP situation because, I mean, they've done work for 2 months. You can't process your certificate with BPP. Why would that be? And then many people are going to their offices and saying, okay, there should at least be a backup situation. There should be a reserve situation. And then they get there and they say, no, there is no plan B. Why should that be? It shows, I mean, lack of care. It shows we don't care whether you survive or die. And these are lives. When you look at businesses, you must look beyond corporate names. You must look beyond the CSE to look at lives being dependent on those businesses. I mean, lives of proprietors, lives of dependents on those proprietors, lives of workers, lives of, customers, contractors who do business with those businesses, and so on and so forth. And then you think, if you say you want to promote enterprise, how does that promote enterprise?
No, it doesn't.
How does that promote enterprise? So a businessman somebody is considering doing business, and then he begins to look at what are the pros and cons, what is the feasibility of my business, what are the challenges I'm likely to face, and then he looks at one of the biggest challenges is likely to face is government itself. Because, you get to, I think on the last day of October, if I remember correctly, a friend of mine tried to pay some money through Remitter. And for that entire day, went from 6 banks, and all of them, the Remitter portal was not working.
Yes,
that's one of the kind of glitches that we're talking about.
That's the problem most of our banks, Nigerian banks, are facing. There's not always network. You keep
how do you
and they keep telling them, oh, sorry, we don't have network.
How do you survive that way? Now, government, I plead with the government of Tinubu to please ensure, because it's for their own sake. First of all, it will up the image in terms of ease of doing business. Think for once, you mean an expatriate will come in here and do business, and when it's at the point of collecting money, you begin to give this kind of stories? How does it portray the government? How does it portray the people? How does it portray the business environment of this country? So we need to appeal to the Tinubu administration that, look, if you cannot create sufficient employment and people have taken it upon themselves to employ themselves and employ others alongside themselves, it is the most wicked thing to do. It is the most inhumane thing to do to begin to frustrate honest efforts. That's why we have so many criminals because they can't find a proper sustenance system, and they're not creative enough. And so they think that by cutting corners, by doing things that are against the law, they can at least eke out a living. So why would the person who is following the legal system, the person who is following the straight way, who wants to make ends meet and maybe get a little above the poverty line, suffer unnecessarily?
Sad, if you might say.
Yeah, very
Thank
sad,
you so
very
much.
sad. I hope that government will wake up to its responsibilities
Yeah.
and get the BPP portal running as soon as possible.
Yes.
I hope it can be done even today.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And we from there we move over to health. Today is the Waterways Day, and
Yeah.
of course the Guardian has a leading story on it. Amid ravaging scourge, HIV cure vaccine still elusive 42 years on.
Let me, just before I go to AIDS, let me put this last point, that already government is going to create integrity problems for itself, because many people are beginning to think that government is complicit in this, that government is deliberately using that as a ploy to slow down on paying its debts or even abdicate responsibility entirely. Because before you know it, they will say it's December 31 and that the accounts books have closed.
Have closed, yes.
You know, so talking about AIDS,
42 years
42
on.
years on,
No
I
vaccine,
think
no
for
cure.
me, yes, but the kind of fear the word AIDS used to strike into people is no longer there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that for me, that's great news.
But
And I think a lot of
however,
people have also
I
embraced
have a different take on that.
retrovirals.
My take is that, of course, though it was discovered many years ago, it now became an African thing. And of course, maybe obviously the Western world does not see any reason to pursue cure and vaccine.
No, I think that if it has become an African thing, it would actually be because our systems do not work. You would find out that we are that, I don't know, I don't want to use a bad word on TV, but the truth is that you would find that someone probably has responsibility in charge of retrovirals, in charge of drugs, in charge of kits and whatsoever, testing kits, and he's thinking of how can he turn this into a money-making business? And rather than, maybe those things were brought by donors and they were supposed to be
that was
given
the
for
issue we
free,
had at the
and
beginning.
somebody is now looking at how can I make some money from it? That in itself is a problem. So our mentality really needs to be washed, needs to be refurbished, needs to be changed towards acquiring money, even at the expense of people's lives. So that is one. Then the truth is that the level of funds, of capital commitment to health has always been an issue
Yeah, it has
around
always
here.
been an issue.
So,
even in this 2024 budget, health is behind the education.
good.
We have
And
defense, infrastructure, education. Then
good.
health.
And even when you say behind, it means it's behind what? So you can imagine how low it, if the number one item is low,
1.8
then
trillion,
you can imagine
1.6
what it will be
trillion.
for the others. So I think that these are the issues. I do not think that maybe the international world or the developed world is deliberately making it an African thing. And I think rather that if they have a cure, they'll make more money. It will help boost their own economies, and it
Nigeria
will save
too,
everybody.
although the numbers have reduced, but however, Nigeria still continues to contribute, still continues to maintain its status as second leading global leading country with HIV infected persons.
Well, there's too much
And
energy.
this is the position it has maintained over the years.
There's too much
and
energy
this is not
here.
even from the
People
fact
need to
that
get,
the awareness on condoms is still very, very low. A survey carried out in 2020 discovered that revealed that Nigerians only 34% actually use condom. This is in spite the ravaging HIV/AIDS.
I tell you that there are people, and this applies to both genders, who will tell you that you don't speak Yoruba. I could just bring in a little Yoruba here. It says kill fani orogbo, what's the beauty of bitter cola? That has you can't break it into equal parts as you do the cola, and then you eat it is even bitter. So what exactly what's there? What's that? That's how a whole lot of people look at sex when it has to be with condoms. But you see, that's to say that people do not know their priorities. Because if you prioritize your life, then you would know that protection is sacrosanct.
So, what should Nigeria do in this instance? Looking for cure or vaccine?
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason why Nigeria cannot invest into trying to get a cure.
Yes.
We have brilliant scientists all over the place, and they do very well outside our shores because the conditions for their work is good. So if we get, we've been talking about enabling environment. Now, so if you give the scientists in this place the kind of conditions that they could get elsewhere, and you fund them, I believe that they can do wonders. I believe that we can get even the cure and begin to sell to the world. But again, don't forget there's a whole lot of politics in all of this too. Eventually, even if we get some cure, there will be issues. But let's get to that point. When we get to the bridge, we'll cross it.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's been a pleasure having you on the
program.
Thank
you very much.
This is where we draw the curtain on today's December 4th, 2023 edition of your favorite program on television, Inside Nigeria. Of course, we've had our guest who went away. Nice to have him on the studio today, Dayo Omogun. My name is Winifred Ugwebo. Until we come your way again, same time next week. Yes, wishing you a beautiful weekend and happy new month to you too. Take care, stay blessed. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.